Hi, welcome to Zucked with Mihir Tate, Priyanka Chopra, Akhil Charnani, and Jeff Cutler. Our mission here is to improve Facebook's data practices and to improve the average Facebook user's understanding of their data. We'd like to do this in three ways primarily. The first is in how data is actually collected by Facebook. The second, how it's used by Facebook after users agree to give it up. And the third is how individual users can control their data, both how it's collected and how it's used. In addition, we'd also like users to be better educated on how to use the platform at a level of privacy which they themselves are comfortable with, not just that which they have agreed to by not fully understanding Facebook's data policy. Why do these changes need to be made? We believe that Facebook's privacy practices follow a legal compliance to the extent which they are actually required to without getting in trouble. The problem arises because we believe that it is unnecessarily difficult for users to actually understand the information which they are presented when signing up for and using Facebook, and to know what exactly it is that they are sacrificing when they agree to use Facebook. The changes that we would like to see implemented in Facebook's data practices come in three parts. The first is that although it appears as though Facebook is attempting to inform their users, in reality, this text is written in a small, difficult to read font and can be easily ignored. The implicit acceptance of policy when users are signing up for Facebook keeps users uninformed about Facebook's data policy more often than not, because it is likely that they will skim over this long-winded and complicated explanation of Facebook's data policy rather than take the unnecessary amount of time to break it down for themselves and understand what it is they're agreeing to. To resolve this, users should be explicitly informed of every aspect of data collection and data usage upon sign-up, without them having to proactively attempt to read this long-winded policy. Our second goal is centered around how Facebook should actually present this information to users. We do acknowledge that there may be a legal basis for having a privacy policy which is not easily understandable, but from an ethical standpoint, Facebook should present a synopsis alongside of this policy with a simple and concise explanation of what exactly users are agreeing to. By doing this, they would ensure the users actually understand what they're agreeing to and know what they're getting themselves into when signing up for Facebook and agreeing to let Facebook use their data. More specifically, this explanation should be no longer than 1,000 words in an ideal situation. Finally, our third goal is that users should be fully informed about how Facebook actually protects their right to erasure, as outlined in the GDPR. Specifically, they should be informed what the exit process is for how they can delete their data and leave Facebook without anything being unclear to them. Currently, this process is gruesome and inconvenient for the user and can easily be streamlined into a clear, concise process, which we do not believe it is right now. As a reminder, the right to erasure is essentially a right to be forgotten included in the GDPR. Individuals are supposed to be able to make a request for erasure verbally or in writing. And in practice, Facebook has not always been scrupulous about how they protect their users' right to erasure. Next, we'll move into the research that we've actually gathered. And we believe that there are a few key findings from the number of interviews we conducted about Facebook users and both how they signed up for and how they currently use Facebook. The first key finding is that 100% of our interviewees admitted that they had not actually read through Facebook's privacy policy before they had agreed to it. This is what we expected, and this is what we were trying to change. Most of our interviewees were surprised at the level of Facebook's data collection, and most users did not know that Facebook was permitted to share their data with third-party services. Despite all of these, none of our users said that they had considered leaving Facebook on the grounds of their privacy being sacrificed. From a legal standpoint, one could argue that these users had all the information available to them and chose not to read it. But we believe that from an ethical standpoint, this information was not actually readily available to the users, and the blame cannot rest on them for not taking an unnecessary amount of time to actually read through this privacy policy which is intentionally complicated. So how will we solve this problem? Our changes take the form of a browser extension designed to overlay on Facebook's website to encourage Facebook to make the same changes themselves. And until they make those changes, it'll keep users informed first while they're signing up for Facebook about what exactly it is that they are agreeing to, and next as they agree to more and more privacy allowances while using Facebook. Here's a screenshot of how our browser extension will work as users are actually signing up for Facebook. So in the gray box outlined here, we see that while signing up for Facebook, the terms, data policy, and cookies policy are presented in small grayed text in between the account creation and sign up boxes. Instead, we will highlight this and actually have a box pointing it to them to encourage them to click. After that, the important information will be presented in a short summary, which is easy to digest and understand before users actually sign up for Facebook. Next, our extension will allow users to see what they're agreeing to and what they can control while actually using Facebook in the form of simplified settings that are always available for users to access, as you can see here in the two mockups we've created. So going forward, we hope that with time, our extension itself will no longer be necessary. But before this can happen, Facebook must have a more transparent, more visible privacy policy than the one which they have now, which helps users not only from a legal standpoint, but an ethical standpoint as well. Thank you for listening.